Yes.
Awesome. Hey, Penny, thanks for jumping on. It's obviously just wanted to really catch up and talk about a massive milestone month, which we just kind of debriefed right then. But I love obviously what you've been doing. You've been in the program for, I mean, I don't even think about a month, maybe just last month, and you've taken some massive action, I think, which has directly led to, the milestone month. So I'm super proud, obviously, of what you've done and obviously what's to come as well. But I'd love just to kind of hear where things were at with your business sort of before jumping in, and any sort of challenges or common things that you were going through before, I guess, jumping in and having a bit of a plan or roadmap, I suppose, if you could kind of share a bit before the program.
So yeah, before the program, it's sort of been all over the show. I don't really have any experience in what I'm doing, so everything I do just gets winged, and I didn't ever sort of send out emails, or I think I'd probably sent out 2 before I started the course. And I really had, like, I'd try to kind of roadmap what was going on, but I never did it efficiently or stuck to it. So yeah, that definitely changed for me, going back and sorting out what I was doing and when I was going to do it, and yeah, made it everything so much more effective. Yeah.
That sounds absolutely fair. And I know that you obviously, we just spoke about, you had a lot on, and then some stock challenges and
Yep.
inconsistencies and stuff like that, which is super typical for business owners that are doing everything themselves. I mean, you kind of spend a lot of time marketing or getting the stock and selling it, and then it's like
Yep.
fulfilling and like ordering more stock and things like that. There's cash flow challenges and everything like that. So
Yep.
completely normal. So you just kind of mentioned, obviously, coming in, it was just nice to, like, did you feel like some accountability, or what kind of helped you, I suppose, take the action that maybe you knew you sort of needed to take all along? Or
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's kind of like, it seems so obvious now. Once you sort of see, setting out your days and what your campaigns and what's going to happen when, like, it looks really obvious now, but at the time you're so bogged down with everything else and worrying about everything else and how to do everything to do with the business, that you can't, it's really hard to make sense of setting everything out and knowing what to do when. So that, just that clarity on being able to ask questions and yeah, about it all has been really helpful.
yeah, awesome. And before you jumped in, because I know we had spoken even 6 months before you did jump in,
Yeah.
were there any sort of reservations, challenges, nerves? Like, what were you sort of thinking before coming in, if you recall?
Honestly,
Yeah, honestly. I know
I
there's a
was
lot
a
of
bit worried.
people in the same boat. Like, yeah.
I was definitely worried. Like, I was worried about, you hear so much about different, e-commerce kind of
Mm,
gurus, and whether they'll help you, what they'll help you in. And it's almost like I had a conversation with a friend saying that, oh, I'd quite like some help because I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's like my phone heard me, and I started getting all these like gurus coming up on my phone. And so I was really nervous, because I was like, it's a lot of money when you're a
mm,
small
mm.
business to then go, here you go, and then trust that it will actually make a difference for you. So that was definitely a reservation, was just the money for a start.
Yeah.
And also knowing that you wouldn't just be throwing, like, there's other ones that I know that you just get thrown in a pool of hundreds of you, and
Mm.
there's no real one-on-one. And even though you said at the start that, there'd be that one-on-one help, I was kind of like,
Mm.
oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sales
it's definitely
tactics.
not been like that. And I find you guys are like, oh, in my messages, like, how's it going? I'm like, oh, geez, not again. No, just kidding. No, but
Can you
it
let me
definitely
work?
keeps, yeah, yeah. No, but it definitely keeps me like, oh my God, they're really just there, and they do want to know how everything's going. And, we have conversations so often, which means that you kind of, it's not like every time you talk to someone that they have no idea what you've done so far, or you've got to go back through everything because they've been right there with it. You've been right there doing it with me, kind of thing. So yeah, so that, all my reservations pretty much, yeah, have totally been blown out the window. So I was worrying about nothing.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, completely valid. And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so normal to be, because you do hear horror stories. I mean, it's like signing up with an
Oh
agency or
yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
It's too common, unfortunately, especially in our
Yeah.
industry. And I just love that you've had that experience, and that you felt supported and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because that's just literally been my mission with creating this
Yes.
program because we were in that position ourselves where we just didn't have any guidance or support, and
Yeah.
or communities, where there's thousands of people and it's just you're just a number
Yes.
sort of thing. So
You're just a fish. Yeah.
yeah. So that's, I mean, I'm so glad that that's sort of what you found. And I mean, in terms of your growth, we are just talking about that again. You're kind of hovering between kind of 7s and 40K months. And
Yeah.
obviously our mission was to get you beyond 50 and
Yeah.
even 100, which you just blew past, which is incredible in a month. I mean, seriously, like what do you sort of feel in terms of the execution of things was really pivotal with that? Or, what was it specifically that really helped you drive, that monster month?
I think just following through on the plan, like setting that plan
Mm.
out and following through what was going to happen when. Yeah, and actually doing it, and with you guys saying, "Oh, how's it going?" and everything else, you're kind of like, "Oh shit," "Yeah, I've got this." You did it because you kind of knew that you'd be there, not in a bad way,
Mm.
like in a good way that makes you want to do it because you want to do well for the both of you in the end, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, yeah, definitely just having that stuff set out. And also, like for me, I say, like, I've never sent emails because I didn't want to be that person pestering someone or whatever. And you talk a lot about just kind of getting over yourself and just kind of doing it, like, and it's like the emails that I know that I get sent. I don't think any less of whoever sends them to me.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, getting my head around that, I always thought I don't want to be that person that sends those emails all the time or whatever. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to. You've got to be in people's faces. Well, not in people's faces in the bad way, but just there to
Present.
remind them that you were there.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, just kind of doing that has definitely helped, and just sorting it and being able to ask questions and
Yeah.
get help along the way. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome just to have, as I say, that clarity in action. And like we start our own businesses to have the freedom and not have someone tell us what to do. And yet when it
Yeah.
gets to that point for that sole reason, it's like, we kind of need someone to help us and tell us what to do. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like,
Definitely.
it's kind of ironic in that sense, but definitely what I've sort of observed with you is just that, I mean, just honestly, your willingness to be open to those things, because yeah, that is a big thing for someone to be able to guide you and say, you do need to do this, even though you believe
Mm.
this or think this. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're just like, okay, like, yeah, really willing to, it's really like really willing to
Yeah.
take the support, and what I sort of say, like coachable in that sense. And then I just love seeing get the rewards from that.
Yeah.
Like you've just been an action taker, and that is everything. And that's how you got to, 30, 40K
Yeah.
a month anyway on your own. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
what we say though is, what got you there won't necessarily get you here. So it's like
Yeah.
that willingness and being open to things is so important. So that's what I just
Mm.
sort of commend you on, because then you're taking the action, and we're
Yeah.
just obviously, you're killing it, which is awesome. It's so amazing. And so I suppose just one last thing, like, I guess with the wisdom that you've kind of got being on the other side, I
I don't know
suppose.
about wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, having the knowledge of, and looking back, obviously on the hindsight, is like, what would you sort of say to people that have kind of in your position, that were in your position, with the fluctuations and kind of maybe being a bit unsure at times and things like that? Do you have any sort of things for, like, advice for them in terms of what, how to get out of that sort of rut, or what would sort of do in that position again?
Oh God, I don't know, because then it's the whole that fluctuation was to do with stock levels. So probably, oh, I don't know, because it's a hard one, because you don't want to throw all your money into something, to buying stock if you don't know you're going to sell it. But yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one, because I don't know what I'd say.
What about
Because
like,
I
what about sort of how you were sort of feeling at a certain point? I mean, you mentioned that you had your reservations about sort of jumping in.
mm,
Was it kind of a conscious thing or decision where you just said, yeah, I need to get some help? Like, was
oh
that,
yeah,
was that,
obviously, sorry, yeah,
no,
missed that
no,
bit.
that's okay. No,
Yeah,
I was asking the question, you're answering, but
yeah.
was there a moment where it was like you weren't aware, you kind of wanted to get help, and then you're kind of like, oh, actually, yeah, I can see how some help would be valuable here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely looking back at my months going up and down depending on stock levels, and I was like, well, this sort of can't be normal. There must be a way that we can pan this out a bit more. So I don't know, I think it was probably going through a couple of months of having really good sales and then really low sales
Mm.
for the month, and really having to push hard for those sales. But knowing it was because my hero product was out of stock pretty
Yeah.
much. So I knew I had to be like, right, I need to be able to have more consistent stock, but I also have all this other stuff that I've got to do. So I need to figure out what the hell is the most important thing to be doing,
Yeah.
so that I can then look at my stock levels and really stop and probably ponder that as well, because there just wasn't really time, I think, because you're so busy doing everything else. It took a bit to actually realize and have that time to stop and be like, okay, well, this is how we need to change this going forward, and this is what the plan of stock levels needs to be. And and knowing, getting help from, say, you guys, meant that I could focus on certain things at certain times and ironing all that stuff out. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Yeah, no, you explained that beautifully. It's, as you say, just having, spinning so many plates at once on your
Yes.
own, as we do. And so I often say that 80% of our time is really spent thinking versus the execution. It is literally that 80-20. And so if we, as our job, can remove the 80% of thinking time about, especially the marketing side, it's like you can just go and spend that somewhere else, or just spend that all the time sort of executing. So yeah, I mean, that was perfectly explained. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And thanks obviously just sharing, these lessons too. I'm sure it'll be helpful for people with, your journey. It's very, very inspiring. So, I massively congratulate you. And I know there's some really big things for yourself and for us in the program. So yeah, once again, congrats, and yeah, onwards and
Thank you.
upwards for sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Penny. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.